Hey everyone, this is Keshav. Welcome to the Lost in Life podcast. I am super excited today to introduce to you Josh Balding, the co-founder of one of the best protein powders and movements out there on veganism, nutrition, and self-growth. So keep listening. Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. And this week I've got an incredible guest. When I first started brainstorming who I wanted to have on, this was one of the first names on the list. So hopefully you guys can feel my energy. And it's my real pleasure to introduce to you Josh Balding, who is the co-founder of an organization based in the UK called Vivolife. And they are all about plant-based living. Welcome to the podcast, Josh. Thank you so much for joining us.
Big up. I appreciate the kind words. It really means a lot.
You're super welcome. I want to get straight into it. So the first question I actually have for you, and I think this would be a good introduction for the listeners, people who haven't heard of you, is what are some of your big successes and why should people listen to you in this podcast? Like, why do you have the earned authority, as I like to call it?
Yeah, it's a good question because sometimes, well, most of the time I still feel like I'm blagging it. So it's kind of like when you take a moment to actually reflect on, like, you know, the last few years, it's always an interesting one. But yeah, so we are, as you mentioned, we're a plant-based supplement company based here in the UK. We actually launched in 2014. Back then it was kind of my vision was to create like an online health food store, and we actually hadn't even spoke about launching our own products or doing anything like that. And so we launched it in 2014, brought our own products to market in 2016, and since then we've grown across we're in like 42 different countries now, across Europe, across USA, starting to move into Asia too, which is really exciting. And we're just trying to use it as like a vehicle for conscious change, you know, just trying to inspire people to make more conscious changes in their own life, whether that's in the form of self-development or whether that's in the form of healthy eating, training, whatever it looks like. We want to use Vivo as a vehicle to kind of, you know, just to point people in the right direction in their lives, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And you know, like I've followed, I mean, I've been vegan since 2010. And
Cool.
I remember when I made the switch, you know, I was all about going to the gym, trying to make some gains, all that jazz. And I remember looking for a protein powder. I bought this disgusting strawberry hemp protein, which all of my friends and family who tried just looked at me like, you are disgusting. And that was back in the time where like being vegan wasn't really cool.
Yeah.
And I still think there's a lot of stigma around it where, you know, you don't want to be that vegan at the dinner table who's making other people feel bad or on kind of some kind of moral pedestal. So I personally don't like to mention it too much because I think with anything that you're doing, it's important to allow people, if they're interested, to ask, and then I'll have the conversation, but you never want to enforce things. So the stuff that you're doing, especially, you know, like with your powders, first of all, they taste great. But I'd love to find out a bit more about like the early stages of the journey and, you know, some of the challenges that you probably faced and also the why behind, like what is your long-term goal and why did you put your energy into starting this plant-based living movement?
Yeah, so do you know, it's really funny that you should mention the not so great tasting protein powders, because that was us in the beginning. We really struggled to try and, you know, if you're making a protein powder that's made from completely organic, natural, whole food ingredients, sometimes getting the taste right is, you know, one of the hardest parts. And as you probably know, like the taste buds of someone who's been eating like a whole foods plant-based diet for a long time is very different to like the taste buds of kind of, you know, the mainstream person who's going to the gym and wants to find a protein powder that tastes like a strawberry milkshake, you know. So when we were originally making this, it was back in 2016, we decided we wanted to make our own protein powder, and the reason being was because we had the health food store for 2 years and we felt that there was a big gap in the market. We felt that there was, you know, there was a big a big need for a high quality organic plant-based protein powder that was, made from natural ingredients. It was tested for heavy metals. It was as good as they come. But so we were we'd spend nights after nights in my business partner's kitchen, and we'd be blending like these like homemade protein shakes, and we'd get our pea protein, get our hemp protein, get our maca, cacao, whatever it would be, and mix them. Look, do you want to try it? And everyone hated it for like the first 6 months. It just tasted terrible. So we soon realized that our taste buds, as someone who's used to eating more whole foods, like I was like you back in the day, I'd use like a plain hemp protein or a plain pea protein just because it was the only thing that was available. So I was kind of used to it, but I quickly realized if we wanted to tap into more of a mainstream market, we had to get the taste right. So we developed the flavors over the period of like 2 years. Really, we just kept going back to the drawing board, kept experimenting. Eventually, we managed to hire someone who has much more sensitive taste buds than we do, so she could really really refine the flavors and make them taste as good as they do. And in terms of like the why as well, it was very much to do with, so we set up the health food store in 2014, and basically our vision was to get the best plant-based supplements. Well, actually in 2014 it wasn't a completely plant-based store because I hadn't made my move into veganism yet. So it was basically just an online health food store for supplements. But around like 2015, 2016, my personal values started to shift, and I started to become much more aware of like the benefits of a plant-based diet, both from a health point of view and from an ethical, environmental point of view. And then as we were selling all of these brands, we'd sell brands like Vega, Sun Warrior, Garden of Life, all of the big brands that you'd heard of. But the closer we got to them, the more we realized that, well, actually, we felt that we could do it better. There was these products that were big international names, but they were getting busted left, right, and center for having high levels of heavy metals in their products. They weren't really using the most functional ingredients. You'd kind of see it seems to be a bit of a curve that as a brand gets bigger, they will, they hire more people and then they start cutting costs. And you see brands that start with the right intentions to make like a high quality product, they gradually over time, it seems to start getting less and less focus on like the functional ingredients and more focus on, all right, how do we improve the profit margin? So we were like, well, we want to do this better. So we spent about a year, 18 months formulating our own product. We found a contract manufacturer at the time who were great. They made the products for us. We would send them like our recipe, and then they would make them. And yeah, what we did is we sat that in the health food store. So we had like 500 products that we were selling online, various brands, all different, from all around the world. And we sat this protein powder in the health food store, and within 3 months, it was selling more than all of the rest of the products put together. And it was at that point that we decided that, if we really want to make this work, we want to put our full attention into it. So that was like towards the end. Well, that was 2017 actually. So that was like the start of 2017, and that's when we said, look, we're going to have to drop all of the rest of the products and put all of our focus, all of our energy into this one. And within about 2 weeks, we'd got rid of 500 different brands, and we only had this one product. And eventually, over time, we've grown that range and added more products to it. But yeah, so it was kind of like a big shift, but I'm so glad we made it, because it really allowed us to create Vivolife as it is today, rather than the online.
That's so interesting, because there's so many different things there that have, I guess, helped you make that transition, both personally for you, but as an organization as well. You mentioned there, like, you were teetering on the edge of switching over to veganism. What was the thing that made you switch, and why do you think it's important to go vegan in the first place?
Yeah, so that was, again, it was a big shift in my own life, and it made me kind of really reevaluate like my perspective on diet and nutrition. I was never a huge meat eater growing up. Certainly, I was. My mum was vegetarian, so during the week, most meals would be mainly plant-based. Maybe there would be like some eggs or some fish on the table or something like that. And then at weekends, you kind of do what you want. You might have kids around, your friends around when you were kids, and and just eat whatever. But it was only really when I was, I'd say 16, 17, you get in the gym, you start training, and everyone's telling you, oh, you need to start eating meat if you want to bulk up and build muscle. And I was like, oh yeah, I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. So I started pounding like chicken breasts and eggs and steak and everything like that for probably like 3 or 4 years. But felt horrible. Like my skin was a mess, like my digestion was all over the place, and it, like, health wise I really wasn't in a good place. But I started like looking for health in things like different supplements and different dietary patterns. But it was only really when I made the ethical connection to veganism that it really started to connect for me. And at the time when I switched, I was like, I didn't believe in the health benefits at all. I thought, I'm going to lose all of my muscle mass. I'm going to be weak and tired, but none of that happened. And the more I switched to a plant-based diet and went fully vegan in like 2015, the better I felt. All of my health issues cleared up, and also like I had a greater purpose behind it too, because I now my diet wasn't just for me. It was actually, I'm making a better impact on the planet. I'm contributing to less greenhouse gas emissions, less CO2, less animals killed to put food on my plate, which was ultimately just for my taste buds. Really, there was no other reason for it, because I learned that you can get everything that you need on a plant-based diet. So it became a no-brainer, and the deeper I got into it, the more passionate I got about it, and that's what kind of became the why behind Vivolife, in the sense that, yes, we want to provide people with the best supplements on the planet, but we also want to inspire them to make positive changes in their own life, whether that's going fully vegan, or whether that's simply having a meatless Monday, eating less animal products, whatever it is. Then we hope that Vivolife can kind of be one of the brands. There's loads of people that are doing it. There's influencers, there's celebrities now that are making veganism cool. Like you said, in 2010 it really wasn't, and I can totally relate. But now, like, it seems to be there's a big shift happening, and we want to be one of those brands at the forefront that are showing people that actually you can do everything you wanted and more on a plant-based diet.
Yeah, and one of the questions that people are asking in the group, and I'm curious to hear this too, is where did the name come from?
As in Vivo?
Yeah.
So I can't take any credit for that. My business partner is half Italian.
Okay.
And Vivo is, I don't want to botch the translation, but I'm pretty sure it means life
Nice.
in Italian, or certainly Latin. And basically the name it's like living life and living their best lifestyle, but it's also for everything else that's living. It's for the animals, it's for the planet, it's for the living, essentially. So it's about living like your best life whilst also living with respect and compassion at the same time.
Yeah, what I love about that is it's so counter to a lot of the ideologies and paradigms that a lot of people have been conditioned towards, of, like being very individualistic and thinking only of how you can grow. And I really like that idea of, making things more inclusive, so that, yeah, you should grow, but also how can you do that in a way that nourishes the environment, the community that you're a part of? Because, like, I think we forget, we're very connected both to nature, the people around us. And I know it's like a very cliche thing to say, but we do kind of live this very isolated lives at times. And it's difficult, right, to meet your neighbor, to get to know people on your street and stuff like that. But I think that's something that I didn't really know. I knew there was something behind the name that was probably cool. So it's really interesting to hear that. You talked a bit about where the whole veganism movement was back in 2010 and how it's evolved over the last decade or so. How do you feel about that? Like, do you think that we're going through a paradigm shift, or do you think that it's just another kind of trend that we're seeing?
No, it's definitely not a trend. And the reason I say that is because you kind of almost, probably this year for the first time that certainly I've been around the movement, you're almost seeing a bit of backlash towards it, in the sense that it's getting bigger, but it's now almost, a lot of people are focusing on the people who are no longer vegan, people who are moving away from a plant-based diet. I know, actually, so one of my friends, he did veganuary last month for the first time. the Greg's vegan sausage roll, and said, "Oh, I'd like to get the vegan sausage roll, please." And he actually got shouted at by one of their customers, just saying that, what are you doing? Why don't you get a normal one? And he said, like, in a way that made him he wanted to, go vegan even more because of like the backlash that was there. But yeah, going back to your question, the reason I know it's not a trend is because for me, it's like, is a shift that needs to happen, right? Because if the planet is getting more and more developed, there's more and more people being born every day, and if we're going to sustain human existence essentially, without running the planet into the ground, then something needs to change. And the biggest contributor to climate change, to greenhouse gas emissions, to everything is animal agriculture. It's the huge scale of factory farming that we have all over the world. There's thousands of acres of cattle farms with cows, like, really crammed into these really tight barns that are, they see no daylight. They don't eat any natural foods. They're being milked within like an inch of their existence, and that's not sustainable. And in order for us to kind of continue to thrive as a race, really, as a human race, that something needs to change. And I think people are waking up to it. I think people are realizing that, and it may be that long term we lose the V word, vegan, altogether, and we just, we all shift towards a more plant-based, conscious living type diet, because that's where we need to go. We've got like 2 billion people in the world that don't have access to enough food, but we already grow enough food to feed 10 billion. The world's population is 7 billion. It's just not sustainable. Whereas if we cut out all of the animal agriculture and we were feeding, that grain, that corn, that soybean, that all of those legumes to humans, then we already have enough food to feed the world. So from that point of view, like, it is a no-brainer. And I think the more we can educate people on that, then the more, I don't believe that meat eaters are bad people at all. Like, I was one. Like, a lot of my close friends are meat eaters, but it's just a case of making them aware of the bigger picture, and then I think that they would naturally be inclined to make a shift anyway.
Absolutely. And I think awareness is the key word you said there, because it's not always that you need to convince someone or persuade them or like force them to change. It's just pointing out to people, here's how we live and here are the consequences. What do you think is the best choice for you? Because education is a really key part of that. And I was part of I guess I've been doing the plant-based challenge for like 10 years. But I know in Veganuary, you guys did a little plant-based challenge where you're sending out recipes and things like that. How do you see your organization, your business, playing a role in some of those social missions? And like, where do you see yourselves going, both with, products you have in the pipeline, but also being a part of that normalization of dietary change and planetary change, I guess?
Yeah, again, like, we want to be the ones to make it cool, and we want to be the ones that can actually make it accessible too, because I think if you look at when the vegan movement began in, like, 70s and 80s, really, people really started talking about it. A lot of the focus was on animal rights marches. People would, there'd be slaughterhouse footage, all of this stuff. And whilst that does have its place, it's very, if someone was throwing like slaughterhouse footage in front of my face, I'd turn off and I'd be like, no, I don't want to see it. And I'd just blind myself from it. Whereas I think that a lot more people resonate with activism when it's actually done in a positive way. So when you see someone who is healthy and is, has like such a good energy about them, and they're performing well in the gym and they're performing well at work or whatever it is, and you're like, oh, I want to know their secret. And I really want, like, the Vivo community to be the people that can, all right, be out there. We're living amazing lives. We're entrepreneurs. We're fitness models. We're athletes. We're whatever, insert adjective here, but we're showing people that this is the future, and people are going to want to know what we're doing. So, like, if you see someone, if you see someone at work who's excelling in their job, and they are, they're more productive, they're getting more done, but equally they seem to have a better work-life balance. They're I don't know, they always look healthy, they maintain their weight easily, then you're probably going to want to say, oh, actually, what's your secret? And then that's when I believe that the real change can be made. So I really hope that Vivo in the next few years will continue to grow and continue to like build a community that can actually show people that this is what the future looks like,
100%, man. It reminds me of back ages ago. I mean, after university, after I graduated, I volunteered for 3 months in Botswana, working on women's rights and in a shelter for teenage girls that have been sexually and physically abused. And while they were trying to educate the community about raising awareness, but also, speaking out more, one of the things that they always used to talk about was like, they had a theory called SASA. And it was all about when you're making, marketing posters or you're talking to people, don't focus on the negative side, focus on the positive things like the aspirational behavior rather than victimizing or shaming people, because like you said, it's going to turn people off. It reminds me of, I don't know if you've heard of this before, but they did a study in the University of Massachusetts, the Massachusetts General Hospital, where they were trying to get more people to drink water in the hospital canteen. And initially what they tried was the usual tactic of like scare stories. This is what it's going to do to your teeth if you drink too much sugar. This is going to increase the risk of diabetes, all these things. And it didn't really affect the sales. Like more people didn't buy bottled water in the canteen. And so they decided like, what if we made the default choice buying water? And so in the canteen vending machines and where you get all the drink stations, they just put more water at the front than at the back. So if you wanted the Coca-Cola, you had to reach to the back to get it. But the easiest default option was to buy water. And it worked. Like more people started to buy those things because it was just more readily available. It was just the default option.
That's so cool.
So yeah, it kind of reminds me of that, of just like you said, making it like it's easy now. I can go to Tesco and buy like a vegan Magnum. So when my sweet tooth is craving something, I don't have to buy like some weird concoction of ice cream that I don't know like what's good. There's like so many key numbers in there, so many different chemicals. I mean, the Magnum probably still has that, but it's a lot easier now. One of the other things that I'm really interested in from a personal point of view is, I run 2 organizations. I run a social enterprise called Revolution Hive, and we work with young people from disadvantaged backgrounds all across the UK, teaching them the stuff they don't learn in the curriculum from personal, social, and global topics. And the growth for us has been fairly slow. Obviously, we're in a different market. We're selling a different kind of service, and the climate's different. But I've seen, Vivo grow super quick in the last 2 to 4 years. What do you think has helped? Like, how did you do that? And I'm sure the answer isn't simple, but what do you attribute to that rapid growth? And what do you think you've been doing that's helped you to grow so quickly?
Yeah, it's a good question, because like sometimes I do ask myself that, and like you have to, sometimes you're so caught up in it, moving from one thing to the other, you need to take some time to take stock. And it has been rapid growth, but I don't think I look back at it and like I don't think we've ever done anything that's like, I don't see one move that was like, okay, yeah, this was genius, this was clever marketing. I feel our biggest asset has simply been like transparency and just kind of, actually there's so many secrets and lies in the supplement industry. There's so many companies that are, trying to draw attention away from their ingredients and trying to deceive the customer by using clever buzzwords on their products and all of these things. And we were like, we want to do things the right way, and we want to offer full transparency to customers. So we want to show them everything that's going in there. We want to show why it's going in the product. We want to show how the product's being made, and we don't. And then when you do that, you don't really need any. We never had a big advertising budget. We never had like any of this stuff, but we didn't really need it because the product was selling itself. So I think that was one part of it. And then I also think like you've touched on it already, the community side behind the brand. That was something that from day one I was always really keen on building, making something that people, it wasn't just a product, it was something that people could be part of. And I wanted people to yes, they love the products, but I wanted them to love the brand and resonate with the brand even more. And that's why we spend so much of our time and energy doing things like events, making so much content. Like, I love to write, so I put so much of my energy into things like blog posts and emails and social media and everything like that. And I think the more the stronger we've built the community, the more people have wanted to become part of it. And now whenever we go to a trade show, or whenever we we do a meetup with customers or something, like, it humbles me so much, because people are saying, like, how much they love the brand and how much they really resonate with what we're doing. And then, what it's like when you feel part of something, you want to tell your friends about it, and then your friends tell their friends, and then things start to snowball. And because of that, we've never had to pour loads of money into ad campaigns, or really have to think, how are we going to stand out, because it sort of happened naturally.
What have been some of the, like, mentors or books or habits or even specific mindset perspectives that you've had that you think have helped? Like, what would your advice be to other entrepreneurs out there, or even just people trying to achieve a certain goal? Like, what do you think has helped you guys?
Yeah, so I think number one is having that bigger purpose behind what you're doing. Like, before I got into Vivo, I did a number of things, but none of them really felt like it was something I really was passionate about. And when you're kind of aligned with what you are passionate about, then you make it work. Like, you find everything to make it work. And the first 2-3 years of business for us were really, really hard. Like, we were scrabbling around, trying to make an impact, trying to be different, trying to do anything that we could to stand out. But the thing that gets you through is believing in it, because any it's like, as an entrepreneur, any sane person would have given up a long, long time before you did. Yeah. But it's because you've got that passion, and because you believe in it, you want to stick with it. And I firmly believe it was that kind of resilience that was able to get us through those early stages. And it's like any business, if the passion isn't there, then you won't see it through, and you won't be able to put in those long days, and you won't be able to cancel dinners out with friends of a Friday night because you've got to pack a backlog of orders or whatever it is. You wouldn't do that, because it would never be your priority. On the reverse side of that coin, like, so the first few years was very much for me, it was like grind, hustle. It was like, get your head down and work as hard as you can to make this work, because it was my dream, to that mentality massively, because I've learned that I'm just one person and I can't do it all. So I've had to invest time and energy into building a team, into surrounding myself with other people who believe in what I believe in, and actually giving them the responsibility and the trust to make decisions and to make a difference themselves, because otherwise you're just limiting yourself by your own resources and your own time, and you can't forever be the person that answers every phone call, answers every email, ships every order. You have to take a step back, and you have to trust people. And I've surrounded myself with people who are much, much smarter than I am. And what that's done is that's allowed me to really play to my strengths. I've been able to outsource the stuff that I wasn't so passionate about, and I wasn't even that good at, to be frank. And by surrounding myself with those people, it's allowed me to focus on my strengths. They can do the same. And we all kind of move the business in the same direction. So the last couple of years, it's been very much a shift. I've found that balance back from work and life, which has been really, really important to me. And the more headspace I create, the better my quality of work is. When I've got time to take a weekend off and go surfing, or to spend the first hour or two of the day meditating, working out, doing some yoga, whatever it is, you're actually more productive, and your output is better, even though you're spending less time working. So like, the first to summarize that, like, the first couple of years, like, there's probably going to be, it's an inevitable, you're going to have to work hard, and you're going to have to scrap and really get it done. But then once you've laid those foundations, it's kind of about creating more space for yourself, so you can be effective, and you can be like, you can play to your strengths too.
And I think you actually hinted at that at the beginning, because you talked about switching over from having multiple products and brands and things in your shop to deciding, hey, like, this needs our full focus. And I think I know for myself as well, like some mistakes that I've made have been dabbling too much and trying to do too many different things, or trying to switch lanes, like, oh, maybe this will be better, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do this, but actually finding one thing and really doubling down on that and mastering that one thing. What was, and when you were talking about that, this question did come to my mind. What was the signal to you, like, yeah, this is where I need to go all in?
So in terms of, when we switched from the health food store to
going, like, because I guess it's quite in a way it could be quite a scary thing, because everyone has multiple passions, but it's knowing like which thing to really focus your time, energy, attention on.
Yeah, it really was. But I think the biggest shift for us was like making an impact, and what we found is, as we learned more about the brands we were stocking and got closer, we really felt that we could do something better, and there was no one on the market doing it like us, and doing it like what we wanted to do. So we just said, look, we need to give this our full attention if we want to make the impact that we want to make. Again, this coincided with my own switch to a plant-based diet, and I had the greater mission behind it. We were like, we need to go all in on this, and like we just didn't, at that point, we didn't care what it took. Like we just wanted to pour our hearts and souls into it, and thankfully it worked out. Things could have been very different, but I just think that 6-month period of really hustling and getting it done was what was allowed us to kind of get the leg up, and then from there you start to gain momentum and things become easier.
Yeah, absolutely. The dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately, right? So at the beginning, you got to put, like a rocket ship uses 80% fuel on takeoff. You got to put the long hours in. You got to get your hands dirty. But at the same time, once you've done that, it's about knowing, okay, let me now change my role and let me do what the organization and even more importantly, the mission needs me to do. One of my favorite quotes is from the Dalai Lama. He said, when we reach beyond the narrow confines of our own self-interest, our hearts become filled with strength. And it really reminds me of, when I'm trying to do something just for me, like I'll try hard, but if it's like, my mom needs help, or my brother calls me up and says, hey, like, I'm stuck in a pickle, can you help? Like, immediately, everyone knows this feeling, right? Of you naturally just do more, and there's so much more in you, that latent potential.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And again, just going back to what I know you mentioned books as well, the story, but one of the first business books that I read was, have you heard of the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss? Yeah. So I was like, that looks amazing. This was before I got into business or anything, and I was like, yeah, like that's the lifestyle I want. So I'll set up an online business and I'll work 4 hours a week. It'll be easy. And it really didn't work out like that. The first couple of years, you really do have to put everything into it. But if someone had told me when I read that book that, okay, yeah, you can set up an online business and you will be able to get closer to that 4-hour working week in the future, and you'll be able to create a job that you love and do something that you're truly passionate about, but it's going to take you like probably 5 or 6 years to get to that place. Being realistic, like I probably would have said, nah, I'm all right. Like I'm going to stick in my comfortable job. But I didn't realize that at the time. And I kind of really had that motivation of, I wanted my own boss. And now, thankfully as you build a stronger team, you can kind of move towards having more freedom. But I feel that I had to earn that place. Like it didn't come easily at all. So now, like, having more freedom, having more time to myself, I'm truly so grateful for it, because I sort of have seen the other end of it as well.
Yeah, no, I fully have. I mean, I had a similar journey. And it always sounds sexy when you see it on the book cover and you read all the hacks and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get a virtual assistant on Upwork, and bam, like money just keeps coming into my account. And yeah, like there is no hack. I imagine you probably worked more than like 40 hours a week, 60 hours a week at the beginning, but now is the time where because you have that team and you have the resource. But at the beginning, like there's no shortcut. Like if you're running a marathon, you got to get the blisters and go through the pain of a 6 a.m. run if you need to before work.
100%, man. And you learn to be grateful for those blisters too, because like they do it sounds so cliche, but they do truly make you stronger. And I firmly believe if someone could have like plucked 2013 me and put him like where we are now in business, and to have the success that we've had over the past couple of years, I truly don't believe I would have appreciated it, because I wouldn't have known what it took to get there. So I'm grateful for every 5 a.m. alarm clock. I'm grateful for every, you know, late night spent at the computer doing packaging designs or launching a website or whatever it was, like, because doing that has allowed me to kind of be truly sort of grateful for where I am now.
Yeah, no, I also imagine like you've become a different person along the way. So even if you took that 2013 you and put it in this working functional structure,
he'd have had no chance.
Work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He would have drowned in a couple minutes.
Yeah, and in like you kind of brought me to the next part of what I wanted to find out about, so which is routines. What does your routine look like right now?
So it's kind of it's very different depending on where I am in the world. Like my routine it now involves a lot of travel, which I'm again truly grateful for. Like when I set up the business, I always wanted to be able to travel a lot, which is why we set up a virtual business in the first place. But like my anchor really is, as like I do prioritize like a good morning routine. So, you know, first thing in the day, I will prioritize meditation. Like I kind of want to be one of the people that says that, you know, I do something different first thing in the morning, but like it's completely my anchor. If I can get 20-30 minutes of meditation in the morning, then it just makes me a different person throughout the rest of the day. So I lock that in. That's a non-negotiable exercise first thing in the morning, whether that's like going out for a run or just, you know, doing like a yoga flow in the morning. And then like I'll sort of nail like my most important task in the first 2 or 3 hours. Like I feel that those hours, especially because I get up early wherever I am, like those first 2 or 3 hours are the most important for me. So I don't turn my phone on until like 10, 11 a.m., sometimes later. And I make sure whatever I write it down the night before, whatever I need to do that the next day, whatever the most important thing is. And it could be as simple as write a blog post, or it could be as simple as, you know, I need to I don't know, prepare social media for the week or whatever it may be. Then I make sure I nail that before I turn on any email, before I turn on any phone. So, because that's when the distractions come, right? So I make sure that that's done. And then even if I achieve nothing else throughout the rest of the day, even if I turn my phone on and I don't know, my best friend's called me and he's broke up with his girlfriend today because I've got that most important task done. So I write that down in the evening. I sort of go for my prep in the morning. I do my meditation. I do my sort of exercise, have a cold shower, have a little bit of breakfast. And then like I'm sort of prioritizing that before I prioritize anything else.
You said something deep that I think a lot of people might miss. You have a cold shower. Why would you do that?
Oh, did I? Yeah, I try to skip over that one. That's been a little habit that's come on in the past couple of years. I've got obsessed with. You've heard of Wim Hof?
Yeah. He's an absolute legend.
Yeah, he's a G. I've been obsessed with his work over the past couple of years. But obviously there's a physical benefits that come with it. They're being talked about more and more. Like it reduces inflammation, it boosts your immune system, it makes your body more alkaline, all of that stuff. But even if none of that existed, like I would still do it, because it's a way of the dial and make it warm and have that nice sort of comfortable shower experience. But if you can force yourself to do it, I think it's such a metaphor and sets the tone for the rest of the day, because you're putting your body in a place where you don't want to be, and you're learning to deal with discomfort and to deal with, you know, not things not being perfect. And then I think it allows you to, you know, do the difficult stuff for the rest of the day, you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Like I think for me, what I went, I don't know if you ever heard of Vipassana.
Yes.
Yeah, so I went on a retreat a couple of years back, and
cool.
That really taught me the importance of, you know, at a micro level, if you can learn to sit in the discomfort and just watch it pass, like that little thing, even just sitting cross-legged for an hour, as uncomfortable as that is, if you can learn to do that, then when you're sitting down to do a funding application or like, you know, some boring accounting, your mind is not going to resist that discomfort as much. And it's all about those little tweaks at the micro level. And that's where the macro change happens. Like you change your DNA of a seed, the fruit, the whole system changes. So yeah, that's really interesting.
So true.
Because like I continually see this again and again. Is like it's always the fundamentals applied. Like most people who are doing well, who are succeeding or fulfilled, they tend to wake up early. They're exercising. They're like, you know, feeding their mind with nourishing ideas. They're pushing themselves. They're having that non-negotiable time. And I can relate to the most important task thing, because I generally wake up and it's a dilemma for me of, I know I need to go gym, but I'm so excited right now to get the main task done that I kind of want to get it out of the way. And the morning,
right? Yeah, that's so true, and that's kind of where my routine has shifted certainly in the past like 2-3 years. Like what I would do, I'd go to the gym and I'd hit weights or something like first thing in the morning, but my mind was going and like I really wanted to use that creative energy and do something creative. So when I say exercise first thing in the morning, I do some sort of 15-20 minute just to get my body moving, get the blood flowing and sort of get in my body. And then I would do like, 2 or 3 hours of deep creative work. And then after that, I'll go to the gym if I actually want to have a proper workout that day. And I feel that's like, that's what has worked for me in terms of like, structuring my day.
And let's go to the gym routine, because you obviously own like a supplement company. I know some of your brand ambassadors are like in the craziest shape ever.
Dude, they put me to shame.
What does the co-founder of Vivolife, what does his workout look like? What are you doing right now in the gym?
Well, it looks nothing like those guys who are the ambassadors, I can tell you that for sure. Like it's for me, like exercise is as mental as it is physical. So I've messed about with a lot of programs in the past, but I've kind of come to the conclusion recently that sometimes being able to go in the gym, just lift something heavy, not have to worry about periodization or doing some sort of particular like program that I need to follow, is sometimes like the best thing for me. If I can just get in there, work up a sweat, if I can move. So I like to do a lot of calisthenics type movement. So the basics, push-ups, dips, pull-ups. I mix that in with kind of like your functional weight training movement. So a squat, a deadlift, some sort of press. And then I like to do some sort of like high intensity, whether it's like rower on the rowing machine or like a prowler or whatever it is. If I can kind of get those 3 elements in there, then I feel like I've had a good workout. But it's moved back from the early days. It was very much like a bodybuilding routine. I do like I do chest day, then I do arm day, whatever it is. And like, it's never like that. Now it's very much like full body functional movements, but they're like, that's the fun stuff. That's the stuff that I love to do.
That's awesome, man. I like one thing that I'm hearing from this conversation, everything you've shared, is the important. You said it earlier, like it was. I kind of wanted to. I don't know if I was like a DJ, had like that glass shattering sound of the fire. Like the more headspace I have, the better my work is, and I think it's everything you've talked about so far is testament to 2 things. One is like know why you're doing something, so that you know what you're trying to achieve, and secondly, coming from this place of ease, because I really believe that ease creates and urgency destroys. Like when we're trying to cram in an hour workout, have the protein shake immediately after so that we can have big biceps or big chest or whatever, it's quite like there's a lot of pressure there. But when it's coming from that space you talk about of, I'm just trying to get my blood going, I'm trying to get a bit of a sweat, trying to just keep it functional, get my brain activated so I can, it can help me throughout my day rather than I'm trying to achieve a particular body type or look or something like that.
Yeah, dude, that's so true. I really like that quote. I'm gonna have to steal that one, but it's
not from me. So that came from Nancy Klein and a book called Time to Think, which is all about like I learned it as part of my coaching training. It's all about when you are having conversations with people, especially in like a team environment, as a business owner or CEO. I'm sure you can relate to this. Often in a meeting, for example, somebody will say something, but the point immediately gets diverted to a certain agenda or something else. And we tend to like react with, oh, I went on holiday in Spain. And we might say like, oh yeah, I've been there, rather than how was that for you? or,
Yeah.
like really giving that person time to think. And that book is all about that quote, like ease creates and urgency destroys. So if you want to empower people in your family, your workplace, even your friends, for example, like you mentioned, if someone's going for a breakup or whatever, a really good way to do that is just to sit with them and say like, yeah, so, like, what else are you thinking? Like, what do you feel? Like, just lay it all out. And I want to hear, without any agenda of my own, like what you think. And it really helps people to figure things out themselves. So yeah, all credit to Nancy Klein for that.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to have to give that book a read.
Yeah, I'll definitely recommend it. I mean, there's probably a lot of books that I can recommend to you, because I every year try to read between 30 to 50 books
Nice.
and review each one. So I'm sure you can relate to this. Like, I really believe like books are, especially now you've got Audible and audiobooks and stuff, they're so massively underrated because when I'm in the gym, for example, at the moment I've been testing out just not having any headphones or anything, just to be present. But usually I'll be listening to an audiobook, so I'm getting that physical development and mental development at the same time.
Yeah, I love it, man. But books have been, honestly, I'm so grateful for the time we live in when we have access to so many great minds and so much information. What I've actually been doing in the past couple of years is, I went through a stage where I was trying to cram as much in as possible and trying to read every single book under the sun and every recommendation I got. But in the past year or two, what I've tried to do more is actually find the books I really resonate with and master them. So instead of going from like one book to another, I will read the book and I'll reread it and I'll highlight it and I'll stick a load of bookmarks in. And by the time I'm done with it, it looks like it's been at the local nursery or something. It's so scribbled over. But like, I really feel that I really want to earn the right to master the principles in that book before even moving on to anything else.
Absolutely. Like, knowledge is only power when you apply it. So it's so true. What have been some of those like totally destroyed and highlighted books, like top 3 most influential for Josh? What have they been?
I love Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yes, I know it's going to be a good podcast when you mention. Please
Nice.
Continue.
Yeah, dude, it either goes two ways. Like, sometimes I say Don Miguel Ruiz and people be like, who? Or they're like, yes, like, I love him. So I'm cool, you're on the same page. 4 Agreements, like, changed my life. I think it's an amazing book. I think everyone should read it. I think it should be like on the curriculum at primary school. I love The Mastery of Love too by him. I think it's an amazing book, and it kind of comes away from, well, actually no, it doesn't. Like, it's a book about personal development, but that kind of, there's so many things that overlap into your work career and everything like that, because it teaches you so many relationships and about and then things like some other books I love are Celestine Prophecy, the Monk Who Sold His Ferrari is another really good one, and then there's like the classic business books, like Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. The 4-Hour Work Week was another good one. Like these kind of The Art of Nonconformity is another good one. But I kind of tend to sort of gravitate more towards like personal development books, because I feel that they spill over into my business life, but also my personal relationships, my the whole picture, rather than just like the work life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Because if, like, Tony Robbins has this quote, success is 80% psychology and 20% mechanics. So I can understand. If you're reading Don Miguel Ruiz, and for those of you who've not heard it before, how do I even summarize it? But it's like ancient Toltec wisdom on self-love, on seeing everyone for who they are. Like, one of the most beautiful ideas in that book that I love, that really impacted me, was like, imagine everyone in the world had a disease, and they have lesions all over their skin. And every time you try and shake their hand or you accidentally brush past them, it really causes them a lot of pain. And like, they may get really irritated because of that pain you cause them. And he said, imagine if suddenly, like, you became, you were totally healed of this disease, and you're so happy, you're so loving, that you're trying to like hug people, you're trying to like, high five people, but it hurts them. And sometimes inadvertently, that's what we do. We rub people the wrong way, and their irritation or their anger and that reaction is not a reflection of who we are, what we've done, but it's more understanding like, oh man, like that must be really painful for you. Like, how can I help you with that? So, so many good ideas. And I can see how, having read the book and knowing, you know, quite a bit about your brand and the organization you're trying to build, like how you're applying that principle or that lesson in what you do.
Yeah, it's so funny. That was one of the things that really resonated with me too. And what it taught me is that, you know, whatever situation you face when you meet someone, not all of the time, if they have a problem, if they're directing anger or pain or upset or whatever emotion it is they're directing at you, it's never personal. It's never a result of you doing something wrong. It's never a result of, you know, you being a bad person or you not being likable. It's always coming from the other person. So with that in mind, it's about meeting people where they are. It's about understanding what is going on with them. And then, you know, when you know that, then you can have empathy for that person, and you can actually work with them to truly understand what they're doing. I think if everyone did that, then the world would just be a much better place.
Oh man, so true, so true. I had Anna Garcia. She's a relationship coach and expert on the last episode, and she was talking, like I was saying to her, you know, so often we make other people's human moments about us, whether it's our parents or things that happen to us or breakups or whatever, and actually trying to understand that, like, it's not about you. That's what that person did. And she said like something really powerful to me, like, if you're over the age of 25, like you can't blame your parents for anything anymore. Like you're an adult.
Nope.
Come on, like really look at what you can do, because ultimately, we all go through like challenging times, boring days, mediocre days, happy days, but it's our responsibility to try and like meet each of those experiences with a kind of equanimity and composure.
You can let them define you, or you can, you know, actually use them. All right, use them as a lesson, but you don't. They become, then they don't become your identity, right? So if something challenges you, or you go through, like we've all been through horrible, really tough times, but you can either be that person who wallows in it and uses that as their story for the rest of your life, or you can start a new chapter and use that to actually, okay, I'm going to take a lesson from it and grow stronger and not let it define me. And I think really you meet two types of people in the world. You meet the people who have had bad things happen to them, and they use that as that, you know, that is their story. Everything in their life is a result of that. Or people that, you know, embrace it. They are grateful for the lessons that it taught them, and they move on and grow stronger, and don't let it define them as, you know, as a person.
Yeah, so Les Brown says like you can get bitter or you can get better.
Yeah.
That was a question I actually wanted to ask. Like, you come across as someone who really knows why they're doing things. You have this clear purpose and this great headspace. But have you ever been in the opposite place where you're feeling lost, you're feeling stuck, you're confused? What have been some of those moments for you, and what helped you to get through that?
So yes, I have been for most of my life. Like I was that person that had, you know, in a way I always felt a lot of pressure. Like I knew I had something to give, but I didn't know what it was, and sometimes that felt like a bit of a burden, because I was like, oh, you know, I have this desire to succeed and this desire to do something, but I had no idea how it was going to manifest itself. So with that comes a lot of struggle, a lot of confusion, and really kind of in the end I just decided that would become the motivation, and the desire to make a difference. I had to pour that into something that was bigger than myself, because if I was going to put that onto, you know, if that was going to come from a purely selfish place, it would never satisfy me, because I always wanted to make an impact that was like bigger than just me. And that was kind of like a big driving force behind it. But yeah, there's been a lot of confusing and a lot of challenging times, but the biggest advice I can give is the sooner you can get in alignment with what you truly believe in and what you truly believe, you know, is your purpose, then things start to fall into place. You can call it, you know, the the power of the universe, you can call it God, you can call it fate, you can call it whatever you want. But I honestly believe that when you believe in something truly and you're aligned with your purpose and your vision, that things will become easy. Like things will fall into place for you. You know, relationships will appear, people will come into your life at the right time. Challenges will present themselves, but you know that they are there to make you grow stronger and to learn from. And when you have that, I really think that you're invincible. There's nothing you can't do.
Definitely. It's something as well. Like sometimes I feel like it makes sense when you hear it, but if you know, for the person who's listening right now, who even just feels kind of stuck or in a bit of a rut, sometimes those things, it's like, yeah, I get it, but then how do I apply it? And that's where, you know, I guess there's no book out there or no podcast that can really teach you, but it's really like spending time in your own headspace and sitting down and thinking about, okay, well, you know, where in my life, or who. I always like to think of it in three ways, like people, places, and habits. And this is in my Inner Compass course. Like, who are the people that you're around that awaken you or numb you? What are the places that you're in that awaken you or numb you? And what are the habits that you engage in that are exciting and energizing you or draining that energy away? And I think, like, if for people who are looking for those practical steps, those are some really good questions to sit down, write their answers, to journal, to meditate, to even just go surfing. You know, like I've learned some massive lessons getting battered by waves for 2 hours and realizing, like, sometimes you can be in the lineup, you can be in the right place, and you can practice the skills, you can do all the things, but the waves don't come, or they come and they're choppy and you can't get on the board quick enough. And then sometimes, you know, you're tired, you're not feeling great, but you just catch the most perfect wave and it's awesome. And everyone sees or no one sees. And that's just like, you can't control the waves that are going to come in the ocean. But you know what you can control? You can control whether you go out to the lineup and sit on the board and whether you're waiting or not. Like, that's something you can actually do. And then it's up to, like, nature, gravity, the moon, the universe, like whatever you want to call it.
I think it's an amazing analogy. And you know, at the very least, like, you're showing up, right? You're getting out into the ocean. You're paddling. You're refining your technique. And even if you go home at the end of that day and you haven't caught a single thing, you still, you know, you still had a great workout. You still, hopefully, if the sun's out, got a bit of a tan. Like, it hasn't been wasted. It's just a case of actually getting there and actually making that first step. So for the people that are kind of, you know, they don't know what they're doing or where they want to go, like, what's the one thing you can do tomorrow? What's the one thing you can do next week? Like, don't try. And I think so many of us, and myself included, so many times get caught in a state of overwhelm, and they're like, oh, I want to do everything. I want to build a successful business. I want to have an amazing relationship. I want to travel the world. I want to do all of this stuff. But, like, what's step one, right? Instead of looking at what the bigger picture is, what's step one that you can do? Okay, it may be if you want to get a better relationship, then the first thing that you may want to do is actually, okay, I'm going to schedule a date night on Tuesday, and we're going to spend some time together. We're not going to bring our phones. We're going to go out for dinner. We're really going to, like, actually dedicate time to this relationship. And same with your business, same with your personal life, whatever it is. It's just finding, like, it's just taking that first step, and then you'll get the momentum from there, because then you can move forward from that.
Yeah, man. And everyone loves sharing the quote on Instagram, like, a journey of 1,000 miles starts a single step. But this is where is like, it's okay to double tap the quote, but it's a different thing to actually believe and really, like, have that level of faith. Like, nah, let me just show up today, even if I feel resistance and I can't be bothered, or let me do 2 minutes. Let me do, like, half a workout. Like, because that's one of the things that I've noticed in the people that I work with, young people I work with, coaching clients, like friends, family, is the all or nothing mindset, where you either do the entire workout perfectly or you do nothing. And we forget, like, you know, you can go in and just do your bench press and go home, like 5-minute workout, but at least you did something and you still have momentum. Whereas if you're always aiming, and I've done this many, many times, but now my goal is always, like, I just want to be the guy that always shows up to work out. Even if, like, yesterday, like, hands up, yesterday I had, like, a really rubbish workout. I didn't really hit the usual lifts that I would, but I was there. Like I was there and I felt you will never have a time where going and working out and you're gonna feel bad after a workout. Like that's never gonna really happen.
Not at all. And you're building that habit too. Like if it's kind of, it goes against conventional wisdom, but like, you know, someone would say, all right, if you've never trained before, if you want to start getting healthy and getting fit, go to the gym 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes you have to be the person, you have to say, right, I'm going to go every day, because it's building that habit muscle. It's if you go to the gym at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. or whenever it is, then you're actually, it's non-negotiable. Whereas, okay, if I go 3 times a week, then maybe I'll go tomorrow, maybe I'll go the weekend, and it never gets done. So sometimes it's just putting in those habits that are going to get you to where you want to be. So if you want to, I don't know, be more productive, or if you want to have more headspace or whatever it is, then your non-negotiable habit is to meditate for 10 minutes at the start of the day. Like everyone's got those 10 minutes, but it's just a case of sitting down and showing up sometimes.
Absolutely, man. And that's where having that non-negotiable, like already locked in, it's already in your diary. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to decide, am I going gym today? It's like, no, I don't, like, I just get up, sometimes I've done it where I go to sleep in my workout clothes and my bag is literally next to my bed. So when I roll out of bed and I brush my teeth, it's like, all right, just get in the car. Like, don't spend any time thinking, just get in the car.
Commitment.
I'm conscious of time, and I really want to make sure that we got some very important questions that we need to answer. You know, one of them is, are there any new flavors in the works? And is there going to be a protein cookie or a protein bar coming our way soon?
A protein cookie, interesting. Yeah, so we've got something very exciting coming. It's going to launch in the next couple of weeks. So by the time this podcast airs, it will probably be out. Just in case there are any last minute hiccups or things need to change, I'm not going to say like what it is, but it's something that's extremely exciting. Obviously we are best known for the protein powder, but we do have some like amazing other products too.
And this is check out Thrive, guys, if you haven't already.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, that's my personal favorite. Again, that was created from a place of, I want to help people, improve their productivity, improve their brain health, improve their immune health. And I know that most people don't have time to be taking 10, 15 different supplements every day. So we got all the good stuff. We got turmeric, gossiccola, probiotics, vitamin B12, all of these things, and whacked them all into one. But that's another product. So going back to this one, it's something I'm really excited about. I've been working on it for the best part of a year. And that's going to drop hopefully by the time this podcast comes out. And then in terms of like protein bars, yes, this is something we've been working on it for like
I can hear a collective cheer coming from the Bat House.
Years.
We can't wait.
Yeah, I was going to say. So I spoke to your brother in the past too. He seems like a really cool guy. So when you mentioned he was your brother on the podcast, I just made the connection. So that's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, if you look back through your orders, you'll see like massive orders, because generally what we tend to do is pool all of our money together and then order like 8 things in one go. So I'm always hassling your customer service team for like a quick little discount or something.
Nice.
I'm excited to hear that, because at the moment there are some, and I don't want to mention the brands just because I want to give them free promo, but there are some mainstream brands out there that do vegan protein and cookies and all that jazz. But I'm sure that the spin that you guys would put on it would be very different. And another question we had in the group was your favorite smoothie recipe or your favorite high protein meal recipe.
Okay, yeah. So like I have some variation of a smoothie or a smoothie bowl every day. Like I think it's the best way to start your day. I think it's so easy to digest. They taste amazing. Like I couldn't even when I travel, like I'm always taking my blender with me because I just can't imagine like not having them. So like smoothie bowls, they change all the time. But this morning it was like, what was it? It was banana, mango, frozen cherry. I get a bit weird. I always put like some sort of herb in there. So I put coriander in there, just get some greens in. I put some turmeric in there, some black pepper. And then I do the Perform protein powder and the Thrive together. I normally do like the vanilla, or at the moment I'm loving the banana and cinnamon too, the new flavor. And then I'll mix that with usually the blueberry Thrive. Bang all that in. Sometimes I'll add some like medicinal mushrooms, like some extra reishi or lion's mane or something like that. mix it up, pour that out, and then I just, if I'm doing like a smoothie bowl, I'll put a load of toppings on to like some granola or some berries or some walnuts or whatever it is. But yeah, like smoothie bowls are non-negotiable for me.
Nice. I have a little new recipe that like, okay, when you try this, caveat, it's going to look disgusting, but I promise you it tastes amazing. So try it. Just try it out. Let me know. Email me, support@keshavbhatt.com, or just at any Instagram, social media. Like, I'm on those platforms. Let me know what you think. But here's the recipe. So you get some Alpro soya yogurt or any kind of dairy-free yogurt. Put a couple of like about 100 ml, 200 ml, depending on how big you want it to be. Then I add 1 scoop of the Perform, and I always like to use the salted maca caramel. Blend it all up with a spoon or whatever, and then I'll add some frozen mixed berries, and that is like, I think it tastes like cheesecake or like dessert, and I just love eating it. My family sometimes see me eating and like, what is that cement paste thing you're eating? Because it has a weird color to it, but I promise you, like, it tastes so good. I dash my creatine and Thrive in there as well sometimes, and it just sounds super awesome. But I'm with you on the smoothie front, because that's one of the first meals of the day I like to have, is just get the protein in, get work in, so I don't have to worry about food for a little while and I can just focus.
Yeah, man, for sure. And I think I'm one of these people that I like to eat light during the day and then have like a big meal at night, like a big feast, get loads of my carbs in at night. But in the day, like things like smoothies, smoothie bowls, like a light salad or whatever is like so good, because, you know, your body isn't spending all that energy digesting food. You can prioritize that energy to, like, you know, your brain and the rest of your body and your muscles and everything.
Yeah, no, I think this is where like intermittent fasting and things like that also are useful. I have a friend of mine who he doesn't mix macronutrients. So he only has like protein. So first he has fruits, then he has proteins at lunch, and he has carbs at dinner. Because we always have a joke, like, when we eat carbs, I don't know what happens to me, but I'm just out for like, I need like a good hour to just sit and digest that sometimes.
Yep. Yeah, and in the evening that's really nice too, because, like, you know, you signed off for the day, you can have like a big bowl of like potatoes or sweet potatoes or whatever, and then you can just chill out, you know. For
man, I like it because I can actually I don't have to worry about cooking something because I'm in the office. I just drink my smoothie. Secondly, I like hitting the macros early, so I like getting the protein in, all the good calories, and then I know like that final meal, even if I don't have any control over it, like I have that leeway to have that extra chocolate Magnum or what. You can tell how my diet's going right now.
I'm sensing the theme here.
Yeah. I have a massive sweet tooth. I'm not even gonna lie. But yeah, it's just finding those things that work for you. So, okay, last question. Whose work are you loving right now in the kind of health and vegan world, or people that we should go check out?
Oh, good question. Okay, so obviously, like, so when we take ambassadors on board for the brand, like, we really we bring people on who we really believe in, kind of like their philosophy when it comes to health and nutrition and mindset too. And so some of our ambassadors I definitely recommend checking out are people like Derek Simnett. Like, I think his content on YouTube is like amazing. He just preaches everything that we believe in terms of nutrition. Miles is another amazing one to follow. Healthy Crazy Cool on YouTube. He's like, everything he says, it just resonates with me so much. There's so much misinformation out there when it comes to like health and nutrition, and these boys, like the two of them together, are like dispelling so many myths, and also doing it from like a non-preachy and a non-judgmental point of view. You know, they promote balance. They promote, you know, having a few treats every now and then, having that Magnum if you want it, and not getting too hung up on the numbers, you know. And they're two guys, if you're looking to improve like health, they're two guys I would 100% recommend following.
Oh, they're definitely too awesome. I've not heard of either of them, but they sound awesome. And I think I'm gonna round off with like the 4 key things that I've learned from you today that I think everybody out there can go and apply. So the first one was like having a bigger purpose, because as we spoke about, you can have a passion for yourself, but when you have purpose for people and your community, you're going to go further. You're going to put in the extra mile. You're going to put in that extra bit of energy. So that was lesson number 1 today. Lesson number 2 you mentioned was, that said, like, it sounds great, but you still got to put the grind and hustle in. You still got to make sure that you build a team. You got to make sure that you learn how to delegate, be humble, stay around smart people that teach you things. And like, great work is never done alone. Lesson 3 I got from you, which I think is probably my favorite, is the more headspace you have, the greater the work you can do is. So like, really simple formula there, but whether that's surfing for you, going to the gym, walking your dog, whatever it is, create that headspace in your routine. And it links to the final lesson, which is make those things non-negotiable, so that your phone you are unavailable to the world before 12 o'clock. And you're working on what the mission needs you to do. You're working on that purpose, so that, you know, that first part of the day when you've got the energy, you've got the creativity, you're utilizing it in the most powerful way possible. So yeah, on behalf of all of the people listening, I want to thank you for your time. I know you're a very busy guy. I really appreciate you slotting us in and just sharing so openly. And last question is just, you know, where can people find you? Any special discounts, codes you want to offer to the audience, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, where can people go?
Yeah. So actually, I think a discount would be really, really good. I didn't actually expect to do that, but I think, yeah, I'd love to offer something to the listeners to thank you for putting up with me this past hour.
I think it's a good hour 15, so we got to give them something, right?
Yeah, man, those 4 lessons, you made me sound so much wiser than I was. So if they can, even if they just fast forward to those last 4, then hopefully they get something out of it. Can we whack something in the show notes? I'll make up like a special discount.
Definitely. I'll drop it in the description.
Cool, man. Yeah, we do 20% off for all the listeners. So I'll whack that. I'll put that in the show notes.
You can expect an order for the Bat household coming in then.
Perfect, man. Yes, and then in terms of social media, I'm a massive hermit when it comes to social media. Like I don't do it from a personal point of view, just because.
Yeah, man, it was hard to research you for this episode.
Oh yeah, like I'm a ghost.
I was looking on Company Check trying to find out who is he?
Yeah, like I like to have that just that life away from the internet, you know. But like I'd say go check out Vivolife. We're on Instagram, Facebook. So I'd say subscribe to our newsletter too. Like that's where I put a lot of my like creative energy. I like to write emails and write blog posts and stuff. So that's where you'll hear from me a lot. Yeah, and that's about it.
Awesome. So thanks everyone for listening. Thank you, Josh, for being on this episode, for sharing those amazing lessons, the discount code. I have something to offer you all as well. So if you want to find out more about your personality type and where you are, whether you're a shipwrecked castaway, a dabbler, or a master, I have a free quiz you can check out at keshavbhatt.com/quiz. But other than that, like, my final message to everyone, this is my philosophy, is absorb what's useful, discard the stuff that isn't, and add what is uniquely and truly your own. This was Keshav Bhatt and Josh Boulding. Thank you so much for listening, and tune in next time for the next episode of the Lost in Life podcast. Peace.